What's up guys, siempre al 100, back out here in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Today I'm going to be doing a little review of a new product that I just bought for my mountain bike. It is the Pedaling Innovations Catalyst pedal. It's marketed as the longest pedal on the market, and it has a couple of talking points, specifically these three here. I cut this off the box and I decided to climb up with it. So here we go. Right now I have somewhere between 22 and 25 miles, so I've been getting a feel for it. I'll do a follow-up once I hit 100 miles on these pedals, probably next week or so. So let's get started. All right, so right off the bat, as you can tell, this is the placement that you're supposed to have when riding these pedals, the midfoot placement. This placement here is actually super popular amongst people who started off doing BMX, right? So when you do a trick, it's easier to land in the middle of your foot than on the ball, right? And based on this advertisement, the longer pedal is supposed to give you a better platform. It's supposed to eliminate the flex that your arch has, right? So the conventional place that people like to pedal is right here, right at the ball of the foot, but the spindle, according to these pedals, should be right in the middle. Right off the bat, within 25 miles, I can tell a difference. I'm activating different parts of my legs than I usually do. Usually I feel the burn in my quads, but right now I've been feeling the burn in my glutes and my hamstrings. When you think about it, the glutes are a lot bigger of a muscle group along with the hamstrings. Why? Because it is where you hinge at the halfway point of your body. So as you can tell, I put the pedals on and they come with extra pins, right? So some of them are longer and some of them are shorter. Standard, it comes with all short pins, but what I did here is I alternated. I went long, short, all the way throughout. This way I get really good grip. I think better grip than my old pedals. Before I had the race face Chester, but I will say these are a lot more grippy. The second talking point of these pedals is efficiency. So they claim that the midfoot placement of the axle balances the foot, which takes stress off the ankle joint and allows for better recruitment of the hips. Like I just said, I can attest to that. When you think about the actual movement of the human body, right? Some biomechanics, people who do weightlifting focus on the bigger movements, right? The biggest of which being the squat. When you squat, you're pushing, right? So that means that you need a bigger platform. The best way to do squats is with squatting shoes. And what that does, it gives you a really solid platform for you to push off of. That's kind of how I view these pedals, right? The longer platform allows for better pushing. Another way you could envision it is if you were to pedal with just a spindle here, right? Just a spindle, you wouldn't get much actual power down because you would be trying to balance your ankle on the one little axle. But when you have a longer platform like this, you can push down and envision it as a squat, right? So you're squatting your whole body weight. By doing that, right, you get really good power. You can really put down some watts. I personally have been feeling my different muscle groups being activated. I'm not as strong in those muscle groups, but throughout the miles, the strength will come. I promise you that, right? And the last talking point is the stability and comfort. I definitely can attest to that. Like I said, the stability all comes with a larger platform. The bigger the pedal, the better, right? So the way I see it is when I walk, I don't just use the ball of my foot, right? It's kind of like, would you walk on heels or would you want to walk on flat shoes? When you're biking with the whole power of your legs. The larger the platform, the more efficient that's going to be, right? The more actual power gets down. Like I said, I already pedal with the midfoot placement, but this allows me to really put down more power. So I'm gonna do a little bit more riding on this, give you guys a better review, but so far so good. The only downside of this pedal is that it is heavier, right? Obviously these are made of aluminum, has a larger platform, so it means more weight, right? More weight from the material. When you think about it, it's actually not that much of a loss because you're gaining more power. So although it may weigh more, you're putting down more power because of the better placement of your foot. All right guys, here I am climbing. Here's a steep portion, a little bit tricky, and let me test the pedals. Boom, through some roots. You know, the thing is with these pedals, I feel like my platform's a lot bigger, so the power that I usually put down, I feel like it's more evenly distributed in both my legs and the bike. Hard to explain. I like it. I will say that these pedals, they're definitely a little bit counterintuitive for the average person. You know, If you've been pedaling with the ball of your foot your whole life since you've been a kid, well then, you know, you're gonna find it a lot harder to adapt to this. You're gonna say, oh no, I don't like it. I don't have as much power. But the truth of the matter is you're just not used to it, right? You know, you're still activating the same muscle groups as before, the quads, the hams, the glutes, but it's a lot more power, a lot more stability. And like I was saying, the guy who I believe owns this company is James Wilson. He emailed me a couple days after I bought the pedals asking me if I had received them, which I had, and he did say that it would take a couple of rides for me to get used to them. And I agree. Why? Because a lot of people actually, you know, they'll get the feeling of their different muscles being, you know, worked out, and they'll say, wow, these pedals aren't for me, I'm getting more tired, I'm not as efficient. But you got to give it some time. Your muscles, they take time to get developed, you know, because you're not going to have as much neuroplasticity when it comes to this movement. You've been doing this movement for literally millions of pedals in your lifetime, right? You've been pedaling in a certain way for so long, it's hard to, you know, rewire your brain to activate the different muscles. So here's a little test. I'm gonna do a little bridge gap here, and this bridge gap, it goes downhill, uphill immediately. So it goes down and up, and you have to pedal out. And I am up and pedaling. My shocks are not locked out, so I'm losing efficiency, but even then, pedals felt stable. There's a couple of turkeys. Nice. Check it out, guys. Under the clouds, it's all ocean, but you wouldn't know any better. It looks like right after this hill, it's straight clouds. I'd say this is pretty close to heaven. Here we go, down Enchanted Loop. Start gaining some speed here. Yeah, shred the gnar, shred the gnar. Yeah, zooming, holy. Oh. Guys, this stuff is loose and chunky and steep. Oh, just went through a huge rock. Man, immediate temperature drop. I'd say at least 10 degrees. We are in the Grove zone. And I'm back. 2 weeks later, 4 rides later, and 100 miles later, an update on the Catalyst pedals. Let's see. Okay, so what I found with this pedal is that the short long pin configuration makes these pedals extremely grippy. Along with the larger platform, right? You get super good grip to the point where you have to make sure that your pedals are placed correctly when you start pedaling for power or you start going downhill. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to do micro adjustments, right? Along with that, I also noticed that my power did increase. I didn't necessarily have more power. I was just able to incorporate more muscle groups into my actual movements, right? One way that I've come to think of the advantages of these pedals is running. It's an analogy. Would you rather run with heels or would you rather run with flat shoes? Well, you would rather run with flat shoes, right? Because you're putting down more power. That's how I view this pedal. Would you want to pedal with the ball of your foot or the whole foot? The whole foot, right? Because you'd be able to squat it down. It's almost like squatting. So overall, it took me 3 rides to get used to these pedals. Muscles were being activated in areas that I wasn't exactly used to, specifically my glutes and my hams. But once I got used to it, I definitely felt more power. I saw a review of these pedals and somebody was saying pedal strikes. You know, pedal strikes are going to happen regardless of what kind of pedals you have. Your foot is larger than the pedal, so that means that you're not having pedal strikes, you're having foot strikes. That's a problem of line choice. You have to pick better lines. Better lines comes with experience, not necessarily the pedal's fault, right? So, would I recommend these pedals? Yes, it is marginal gains, but the marginal gains matter especially when you're putting in big miles, weekly, monthly, yearly, right? Any advantage you can take through one pedal stroke is going to compound through millions of pedal strokes. Overall, I would say that the law of diminishing returns definitely applies to these pedals. The gains you're going to get are marginal, marginal at best, but that is enough for me. I bike enough to make them worth it. Whether or not you do, that's up to you. If you have problems with foot pain or any type of hip pain, these might help. You know, you get a better platform overall. So if I was to rate these pedals on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say they are a solid 9, right? There's no such thing as a perfect pedal, but for me, my riding style, they've fit great.